What's up, guys? It's your boy YoungGooby here with another YouTube video. I'm going to be going over the preseason 2021 champion class item goals. I'm pretty excited to go through this stuff. So healing and grievous wounds. Healing has become more prevalent in the game over the last few years. Yep, I mean, that's what happens when you release every champion with 17 passives, built-in sustain. Give most items some sort of sustain as well. I mean, even Rod of Ages you're getting sustain from these days. It's just pretty crazy. Grievous Wounds has gone from a contextual choice meant for heavy healing options in most games. Completely agree. I mean, the only ADC I'm not picking up Grievous Wounds on in the majority of my games is Vayne. Just because she does so much damage that a lot of the time that you don't even need that counter to the healing, because she just out damages any heal in the game pretty much. Runes, items, and champ kits to trim some healing. Thank God, champ kits, which should in turn reduce the necessity. Underpowered when trying to stop a very strong healer, especially when they've snowballed. I mean, that's just snowballing in general. I mean, anybody that's snowballing is going to be really annoying to deal with, whether it's healing or doing damage or whatever. We're reworking CDR to enable more flexibility in how we use the stat and create clearer build choices. I mean, yeah, that again is what happens when you add CDR to every single item in the game. And not even just like a decent one of CDR, but it's just like, hey, here's 20% from this one item. Here's 20% from another item. There, you've got 40%. Oh, wait, you can take a rune and get an extra 5% also. I respect this. I'm glad. Ability haste. It power stacks linearly. Stacks exponentially, so the more CDR you get, the more valuable it becomes. 10% CDR is 11% more casts. 40% is 66%. 50 is 100%. Ability haste will provide a linear power scaling model for more ability casts. 10 ability haste is 10% more abilities cast. Okay. It's uncapped. With the new linear scaling model, we won't need this restriction anymore. I think that's interesting if they're not going to remove the CDR from every item. Every item's got like 20% now. So like a lot of the time you're excluding items from your build that you might want because you don't want to spend money on that extra CDR when you already got 40%. I think a good example of that is like Ezreal when you want to build Maw of Malmortis. It becomes wasted CDR. There's just a lot of other examples too, though. That's interesting. I'm glad they're at least looking at CDR. I think it's really obnoxious right now. League of Legends used to be more about landing your abilities. It's very important to land your abilities because you have very limited mana and you have very limited CDR. And everything was really glass cannon. Nowadays, everything is so tanky. And it just doesn't even matter if you land your abilities because you're going to be casting another one in a half a second again for the cost of like half of the mana that, you know, it used to be. That should be interesting. Tenacity. Ideally, you want to ask a player to ask a question. Is there a lot of hard CC in this game? And note that Tenacity will be an effective counter. Tenacity will reduce the duration of knockups. Thank God. But what a lot of people don't realize, but it only applies to ADC, is that you can QSS flash out of knockups right now. I'll often buy QSS to do that. An example of that would be like a Vi ulti. You can QSS flash out of it. Obviously, Malphite ulti, QSS flash out of it. I wish they added more suspensions instead of knockups because suspensions are QSSable. Great example of that is Yasuo ult. You can actually QSS out of Yasuo ult. Almost nobody knows that. Knockback or pull spells. Few ultimate spells in the game are reducing their duration, undermines the functionality. Thank God. I hate knockups so much. I hate feeling helpless, and I think knockups create a lot of feelings of helplessness. Because there's just nothing you can buy to dodge them. And, you know, with this CDR being so OP this season and so prominent in so many meta builds and meta champions, it's really frustrating to play around knockups because they're just always up and there's just nothing you can do about it because you can't dodge them all. So I'm really glad that's going to be a thing. I'm glad they're looking at that. Jungle items, I'm not qualified to talk about it. Jungle items will be a starting item that requires no additional investment. Stat and resources bonuses they need from this item, so they can immediately start working on the rest of their build. I mean, some champions do that now. I'm not sure if Riot's aware. Like, Rengar players tend to just skip the jungle item completely. They'll just sit on the red part of it and just start building their lethality. I don't know. I'm not a jungler. I'm not sure if they're going to be frustrated with that. Anytime the jungle changes whatsoever, you see Reddit threads just pop up. 17 Reddit threads about how Riot's ruining the jungle and I will dominate comes out and cries and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So that'll be interesting. We'll see. Again, I'm not qualified to talk on that. More strategic choices. I've been screaming for this for years because they've removed all of our strategic choices over the years and they've nerfed the strategic aspects of our items and just replaced them with base stats for the most part, and just feels bad. Too many must-buy items. Completely agree. My biggest complaint is, like, let's say I'm playing against Vladimir, for example. I must buy a Hex Drinker, and I must buy Executioner's Calling. So that means I cannot buy Phantom Dancer, and must opt for a different Zeal item, and it is just a series of events whenever you have to buy an item, and it just feels bad. To offer more contextual item choices and integrate essential DPS stats across more items. Nice. Nice, nice. Very common issue is that marksman players report that they're powerful but overly team reliant. I have been having discussion with Riot in regards to this. This read like one of my messages to Riot. Overall, we think that this is a fundamental and healthy element for the class because it creates a differentiated set of roles to create rich team play and strategy. We also think we can introduce some items that allow marksman players to opt into more tools that help them survive when it's not supported by a coordinator team. Nice, nice, nice. Because I am always willing to give up a little DPS for utility, especially when it's skillful use utility like Quicksilver Sash. It takes skill to use it. It doesn't take so much skill to buy tenacity, but to QSS an ability at the correct time and to QSS the correct ability, like, that takes skill, and I like that. So I hope there's more stuff like that, because, you know, mid laners, they have like 17 active items, supports have like 17 active items. I'd like some active items to outplay people with. Like, that sounds fun as hell. We still want some marksmen to be the class that is defined by its late game, but we are shifting the stats on their first buy slightly so they feel like a more competitive class after one item. Beautiful, beautiful, because you really don't have agency unless your support is really good until you complete your second item. And that's on pretty much every ADC. Vayne isn't a champion until she's got Bork Rageblade, for example. That's going to be great. Fill some item gaps. Some games and matchups makes marksmen feel like there is a missing item for what they need. AD armor item, more spellcaster marksman options, and maybe others. Yeah, I mean, completely agree. Good shit, Riot. This is all beautiful, along with the knock-up change. I'm worried about Grievous Wounds because they said it's underpowered, but I think it's overpowered. As far as, you know, inhibiting ADCs from being able to do their job. But maybe with the more strategic choices, I won't be missing my lifesteal. Oh, all in all, pretty darn good. May just suffer today from a set of first items. They don't have clear trade-offs or situational purpose. Basically predetermined in each meta based on which item is the strongest. That's what happens when you release an item like Luden's Echo. Like, it is just insanely overpowered. The build path is insane. That Lost Chapter item, or whatever it's called, that 1300 gold item that builds out of 2 amp tomes and a sapphire crystal, not a sapphire, yeah, sapphire crystal. Yeah, it's pretty broken. Pretty rich with some unique counter effects and actives. Yeah, I wish ADC was like this as well. Iconic effects for artillery mages, fantasy item for artillery mages that emphasizes their unique range and skills. Dangerous, but I've always said, I've always been a big preacher of the more items, the better. The more items in the game, the better. As long as they're balanced items. I really like the strategic aspect of designing a build based on how the game is going and designing a build based on how my team is doing and how their team is doing, etc. I'm a fan of more items. Less power on champions, more power on items, I think is a good thing. We can use the stat to create another decision point in the mage builds. This allows for some superior haste focus builds and other powerful builds that give up haste for other gains. Cool. Cool. We're fine with that. AP Fighter and AP Assassin. Tailored early build items. Early buy choices that match the patterns and stats that they want. Sure. Fair enough. I like early game. I think the faster we get League of Legends games over, the better. I'd like it if we moved more towards like an average like 25-minute games. I'm not much a fan of those 40-minute games that get you 13 LP, 18 LP, 20 LP. It just feels kind of shit. Once you factor in queue time dodges, load screen, remakes, etc. I'm a fan of trimming down like how long games last. Like AD fighters, we don't think these champs need to build entirely within their own category of items to have a great item experience. We want them to transition into tank or pure AP items, finish out their builds. That's cool. I genuinely like the strategic aspect of more flexibility in build paths. AD fighter items. AD fighters have it pretty darn good right now. Only have one size fits all defensive options. I mean, I mean, that's what happens when you create Star X Gauge and Death Dance, especially Death Dance. I mean, Death Dance is one of the more OP items in the game that has ever been created, I would say. And that's even after the nerfs. Regardless of whether the enemy team has more physical or magic damage, expand on the fighter specific. I mean, that's scary to me, but we'll see. I think AD fighters are in a pretty darn good spot right now. Core fighter items like Black Cleaver or Trinity Force. There aren't decisions being made by fighters early in their build. I'm fine with it, it just scares me. Riven scares me. Renekton scares me. Rengar scares me. It's just scary when AD assassins are strong and AD fighters are strong, because their auto attacks do more damage based on how much AD they have on top of the AD ratios of their abilities, just like an ADC, you know. But they just hit so hard and so fast, and they just snowball so hard, and it's just, we'll see. AD fighters, AD assassins worry me. They're hard to balance. Because, you know, AP assassins, AP fighters, you're just balancing around their abilities and how much damage their abilities do. But AD fighters and assassins, they also get the attack damage on their autos. They're always so darn tanky. So much mobility. Choices beyond ordering. Yeah, it's pretty static builds. Just stack lethality and call it a day. Intentional late build options. Yeah, right now it's literally just stack lethality. Lethality super strong early. And just snowball the game based on one-shotting everything. I mean, again, it just worries me. Tank items, more options to adapt to team strategy. Tanks should be like balanced around their team. I agree. I like that. Tanks are supposed to soak damage and CC stuff. Right now, what tanks do is they sit in the center of the team and they stop the enemy ADC from healing with Thornmail while damaging the enemy ADC and CCing them, and they're super tanky. Like, if I'm not playing Vayne, it feels pretty shit to play against tanks right now. That should be interesting. Filled out magic resist options. Thank God, because there just are not a lot of options for MR as far as the entire game goes. Like, you think about armor items and it just seems like there's just so many options, so many different situational options. You're talking about magic resist options, you're talking about like Spirit Visage, Death Dance, Mercurial Scimitar, Hex Drinker, Merc Treads. And they're just all really boring items to buy. They're just, hey, I need some MR and stats, rather than, hey, I need some situational MR with this situational active item, etc. Should be interesting. Enhanced tank utility. Scary, but I think with the knockup changes, it won't feel so bad. If I can get some tenacity to cut down knockups, that's great. Late game capstone items. Some kind of tank death cap, it sounds like. I'm fine with it. I just like options. I think I would enjoy other roles more if there were more options for their builds. I think I'd enjoy ADC more if there were more builds. Enchanter items, more options for build variety. Dominated by a few items that outshine the other options. Ardent Censer, Athene's, Redemption. The point that most enchanter builds are the same 3 items. I just named 3 items. We tend to upgrade underused items into viable choices. Can we make some fun items though? Like, nobody is exhilarated by a lot of the support items. Like, nobody's excited to build Knight's Vow. Like, I hardly notice it as an ADC when it's connected to me. I hardly notice really the only impactful support items that I can genuinely feel when I'm playing ADC with an enchanter support is those 3. Athene's, Ardent, and Redemption. So I like that. Good. Solve active overload more than any other class by far. Enchanter items end up with many more actives than we would like in a single build. I like active items, man. I got octopus fingers. I can run with like 4 or 5 active items pretty effectively. But I think for the general player base, it's probably a good thing. But I really wish there was more super impactful active items, like skillful to use, like Quicksilver Sash. I think I love very impactful active items. More clear strength on each item. A couple items fall into the good at everything category. They shouldn't only look at that in relation to enchanter items. I think they should look at every item in League of Legends and say, wow, why does this item give 4 different stats in a lot of each stat? So it's good. At least they're starting with enchanter items. All in all, I think this is a lot of great changes. We'll wait to see what they end up putting out. But I'm looking forward to preseason 2021. I think I'll actually play preseason this year. Fill it out. Keep you guys posted on that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, share, whatever, comment, leave feedback. Appreciate that stuff a lot. I will catch you guys in the next video.